Welcome, UPSC aspirant, to a fresh deep dive into the crucial current affairs shaping your understanding of India and the world.
Uh-huh.
This is your shortcut for staying well-informed for April 28th, 2025, Part 1. We've curated a stack of essential updates for you.
Connecting the dots, highlighting what really matters for your preparation.
Exactly. And some of these topics might seem familiar, which is good. Consider it valuable revision. Okay, let's unpack it.
All right. Today we're navigating topics ranging from, well, health and international relations to India's strategic infrastructure and environmental conservation. Quite a mix.
We'll explore a concerning link between maternal health and newborn well-being. Delve into that landmark treaty for our oceans, examine India's ambitious scientific projects, industrial stuff, and much more.
Yeah, our mission is to provide clarity, context, and hopefully those aha moments that turn information into insight, all highly relevant for your UTSC preparation, of course.
Definitely. Let's dive right into a health concern highlighted by a recent UK study. It seems there's a significant connection between anemia during pregnancy and the baby's heart health.
Yes, that's right. The study suggests a 47% higher chance of the child having a heart condition at birth if the mother was anemic.
47%. Wow, that's a pretty stark figure,
Oh.
especially considering, the long-term health implications.
It is stark, and it highlights a potentially underappreciated aspect of maternal nutrition. So just to clarify, what is anemia?
Good point.
Essentially, it's a condition where the body doesn't have enough healthy red blood cells, or specifically enough hemoglobin.
And hemoglobin is the protein that carries the oxygen.
Exactly. It carries oxygen from your lungs to all your body's tissues. So when someone's anemic, this oxygen delivery is compromised.
Leading to symptoms like tiredness, weakness, maybe shortness of breath.
Precisely. And this lack of oxygen, even in mild forms. Well, it's a significant global health issue. The WHO stats are quite revealing.
I bet.
They estimate around 40% of young children, 37% of pregnant women, and 30% of women of reproductive age are anemic globally.
Huge numbers.
Huge. And while this study is UK-based, it obviously raises important questions for India, where anemia prevalence among pregnant women is significantly higher.
Right, which underscores the need for, robust nutritional programs and early screening. A key area for public health in the UPSC syllabus.
Absolutely. Critical.
Okay, moving from individual health to the health of our planet. Let's talk about the United Nations High Seas Treaty. There's been some recent movement on this, right? Major development in international law.
Yes, there has. So 2 years after it was adopted, delegates recently met in New York. It was the first session of the Preparatory Commission.
The PrepCom, what's the goal there?
Basically, to develop the rules and procedures needed to actually implement this landmark agreement. They're setting the stage for the first Conference of Parties, or COP1.
Got it. So for those needing a refresher, what exactly is the High Seas Treaty, and why is it being called the Paris Agreement for the Ocean? That comparison is interesting.
It is. Formally, it's the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement, or BBNJ. It operates under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLS.
Okay.
Its significance. It's the first ever legally binding international treaty aimed specifically at protecting marine life in those vast ocean areas outside any national boundaries.
The high seas, which is what, most of the ocean.
Over 60% of the world's oceans, actually. So, the Paris Agreement tackles climate change. This treaty sets up mechanisms for sustainable use of marine biodiversity through international cooperation.
And it ties into the SDGs.
Yes, especially SDG 14, Life Below Water.
Okay, so what are some of the key commitments? What should a UPSC aspirant really focus on here?
Well, it has 75 articles focusing on protecting the marine environment, maintaining ecosystem integrity, conserving biodiversity. A huge goal is placing 30% of the seas into protected areas by 2030.
The 30 by 30 target, that came from the Biodiversity Conference, right?
Exactly, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework from 2022. So the treaty establishes a legal framework for creating marine protected areas, MPAs, to guard against wildlife loss.
And it covers resources, too.
Yes, managing the genetic resources found there. And importantly, it mandates environmental impact assessments for commercial activities like deep sea mining.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It is. And there's a Conference of the Parties, the COP, set up for governance and accountability among member states.
Accountability is key, isn't it? Given how vast and, historically unregulated the high seas are, enforcement must be a challenge.
A major challenge. That'll be something to watch. Also crucial is the commitment to fair and equitable sharing of benefits from high seas resources. No country can claim sovereign rights.
That sounds ambitious. How does that fair and equitable sharing actually work? Any potential geopolitical hurdles there?
That's the million-dollar question, really. The mechanisms are still being ironed out in meetings like the recent PrepCom. Geopolitical hurdles. Absolutely. Balancing national interests, corporate interests, and the common heritage principle will be complex.
I can imagine. Now, India's involved, I know. What's our status with the treaty? India's stance is always important for the exam.
Yes, India is a signatory to the UN High Seas Treaty. It shows commitment to international ocean conservation efforts.
Good to know. And it comes into force when?
120 days after the 60th country formally ratifies it. So this preparatory work is crucial to get everything ready for when that threshold is met.
Okay, let's shift gears now. A fascinating scientific endeavor in India, the Phenome India project. There's been some news about data sharing. This sounds important for healthcare policy and science.
That's right. The Department of Biotechnology, DBT, recently put out a call for proposals for translational research using data from the Phenome India project. But the issue raised was that this call was made without fully disclosing the available phenotype data associated with it. That caused some concern among researchers.
Concerns about transparency or practical research issues.
Both, really. Without the full picture of the phenotype data, it's harder for researchers to design robust studies or know exactly what they can analyze. It affects the potential utility of the data they might access.
Right. So phenotype data. Can you break down what that means in this context? Useful terminology for aspirants.
Certainly. Phenotype refers to the observable characteristics of an individual. In Phenome India, they've collected a huge amount of this data from over 20,000 people across 83 diverse population groups in India, tribal and non-tribal.
What kind of data specifically?
Things like anthropometric measurements, height, weight, blood pressure, hip-waist circumference, and crucially, detailed biochemical data from blood samples, complete counts, glucose, lipid profiles, liver and kidney function tests. A lot.
Wow. And some genetic findings were published already.
Yes, preliminary genetic findings from just under 10,000 individuals were published in Nature Genetics recently. It highlights how rich this data set is. The potential here is just immense, really.
How so?
Imagine developing truly personalized preventive strategies for diseases that disproportionately affect Indians, moving beyond generic advice. That's the promise.
And the main aim behind the Phenome India project itself. What are the policy goals?
So its official name is Phenome India CSIR Health Cohort Knowledge Base, or PI-CHECK, launched by CSIR late last year. The primary goal is developing India-specific risk prediction models for cardiometabolic diseases.
Things like diabetes, liver disease, heart problems.
Exactly. It's really pioneering India's first pan-India longitudinal health monitoring study focused on these conditions. They're following around 10,000 participants across 17 states.
Longitudinal, meaning over time.
Yes, tracking health changes over time. They collect questionnaires on lifestyle, diet, imaging data, plus all the anthropometric and biochemical data we mentioned. The idea is to understand how India's unique ethnic diversity and lifestyles influence risk.
And it links to a broader healthcare model.
Yes, it aims to promote what's called the P4 healthcare model: predictive, personalized, participatory, and preventative. Tailored healthcare for India.
Predictive, personalized, participatory, preventative, P4.
Got it. So predictive, like identifying high-risk individuals early.
Precisely. Based on their genetic and phenotypic data. Personalized means tailoring interventions. Participatory means involving individuals in managing their own health.
And preventive focuses on stopping the disease before it starts. Makes sense. How does this connect to the Phenome India project you mentioned?
Good question.
Right.
Phenome India is a parallel national initiative. Its focus is sequencing 10,000 Indian genomes to create a comprehensive genetic reference map for India's population. It's coordinated by ISC, supported by DBT.
So one does the genes, the other does the traits.
Pretty much. Phenome India provides the phenotype, the observable traits, which can then be linked to the genetic information from Phenome India. It gives a much more complete picture of health and disease in the Indian context. It's interesting seeing India invest in both understanding population health and building infrastructure for economic growth simultaneously. These are deeply linked, obviously.
Absolutely. Human capital and economic opportunity.
Okay, let's turn to some geopolitical developments now. There was a significant incident reported out of Iran recently. Events there are always vital for India's foreign policy context.
Yes, unfortunately. A massive explosion occurred at Shahid Rajeh Port, which is near Bandar Abbas in southern Iran. Reports indicate, tragically, a number of deaths and injuries.
That's terrible news. For our listeners prepping for exams, can you give some context on Iran's geographical and strategic significance? Why is it such a key player?
Sure. Iran, capital Tehran, is in West Asia. It shares land borders with Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan to the north, Afghanistan and Pakistan to the east, Iraq and Turkey to the west-northwest.
And maritime borders.
Yes, in the Caspian Sea to the north, and importantly, the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman to the south. Geographically, it's dominated by the Iranian plateau, deserts like Dasht-e-Kavir and Dasht-e-Lut, and major mountain ranges, Zagros in the west, Alborz in the north.
Home to Mount Damavand.
That's right, highest peak in the Middle East, and a volcano. It's also rich in natural resources, oil, gas, coal, various minerals.
And Shahid Rajeh Port specifically. Why is that location so strategic? Must be about trade routes.
Primarily, yes. Its location near the Strait of Hormuz is critical. A huge portion of global oil trade passes through that choke point.
Right.
Economically, it's Iran's largest and most advanced container port, handling a major chunk of the country's imports and exports. So any disruption there is significant.
And how does Iran fit into India's foreign policy calculus? What are our key interests there?
Iran is important for India in several ways. One is energy security, historically a major oil supplier, though that fluctuates. Another is connectivity.
Chabahar Port comes to mind.
Exactly. Chabahar Port, developed with Indian assistance, offers India a direct route to Afghanistan and Central Asia, bypassing Pakistan. That's strategically vital.
And the INSTC.
Yes, Iran is also a key part of the International North-South Transport Corridor, the INSTC, aiming to connect India, Russia, and Europe via Iran and Central Asia. These projects are crucial for India's strategic reach.
Okay. Staying in the region, let's discuss the line of control, the Lost Sea. Sadly, there was a recent report of ceasefire violations, a long-standing challenge.
Yes, regrettably. There was a recent incident reported where Pakistan violated the ceasefire along the Lost Sea in the Kashmir Valley with unprovoked firing. The Indian Army stated it responded appropriately. These border areas remain sensitive.
They do. For those needing a quick refresher, what exactly is the line of control? The term is common, but the precise definition matters.
Right. The Lost Sea is the de facto military boundary separating India and Pakistan in Jammu and Kashmir. Crucially, it's not an internationally recognized border.
It's a ceasefire line.
Essentially, yes. Established after the 1947-48 war, it was originally called the Ceasefire Line, or CFL, and renamed the Lost Sea after the Simla Agreement in 1972.
And how long is it? What's the situation like on the ground?
It stretches for about 740 kilometers, roughly from Ladakh down to Poonch in the south. It's a heavily militarized zone, and sadly, skirmishes and firing incidents are, well, not uncommon.
And the administered regions?
On the Indian side, it's part of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh UTs. On the Pakistani side, it's what India refers to as Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, Gilgit, and Baltistan, and it's distinct from the international border, the IB, elsewhere between India and Pakistan.
Understood. Let's move to some positive news on India's infrastructure front. The National Industrial Corridor Development Program, NICDP, got an award. This program is key for economic growth.
That's correct. The NICDC, the National Industrial Corridor Development Corporation, the implementing agency, was honored with the Udyog Vikas Award at an event in Kerala. It highlights the program's importance.
So for our listeners, can you outline what NICDP is all about, its main objectives?
Sure. NICDP is a really ambitious infrastructure initiative. The goal is to develop new industrial cities as smart cities across India. It's about integrating next-gen tech across infrastructure sectors.
Creating world-class industrial nodes.
Exactly, with top-notch integrated infrastructure. The main objectives are attracting big investments, including large anchor industries, boosting domestic manufacturing, and ultimately making India more competitive globally. These corridors are meant to be major economic hubs.
Several new industrial areas have been sanctioned recently, haven't they? Where are some key locations?
Yes, quite a few. They span across states like Uttarakhand, Punjab, Maharashtra, Kerala, UP, Bihar, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, places like Kurpia in Uttarakhand, Rajpura Patiala in Punjab, Dighi in Maharashtra.
In Palakkad and Kerala, where the award event was.
Precisely. Also, Agra Prayagraj in UP, Gaya in Bihar, Zahirabad in Telangana, Orva Kalkaparti in AP, Jodhpur Pali in Rajasthan. These projects are aligned with the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan for Integrated Infrastructure.
Let's focus on Palakkad for a moment. The industrial smart city there, what makes it stand out? Its location in South India seems strategic.
It is strategic. It covers a large area, about 7,710 acres. Its location is key, relatively close to Palakkad City, Cochin, and Coimbatore. It offers excellent interstate connectivity, strong logistics potential.
So the vision is,
To establish it as South India's key industrial gateway, with robust multimodal connectivity, road, rail, air. The aim is attracting high-quality investment, generating local employment, and fostering innovation.
okay, let's shift focus again, this time to maritime territories. India recently adjusted its claim regarding the continental shelf in the Arabian Sea. Can you elaborate? This impacts resource rights, maritime security.
Yes, this is interesting. India increased its claim in the central Arabian Sea regarding its extended continental shelf by about 10,000 square kilometers.
An increase, but there was also a modification.
That's right. At the same time, it modified an earlier claim, apparently to avoid a long-standing potential dispute with Pakistan over the maritime boundary between them. A significant move, geopolitically and resource-wise.
So claiming an extended continental shelf means staking rights to the seabed beyond the usual EEZ for potential resources.
Exactly. The seabed and subsoil beyond the 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone. And yes, the modification seems aimed at preventing future boundary conflicts underwater.
For those may be unclear, what exactly is a continental shelf? Understanding the geology helps interpret these claims.
Good point. The continental shelf is basically the submerged edge of a continent, an extension of the coastal state's land territory under the sea.
So it goes from the coast out to.
Out to a point called the shelf break. Then the seabed drops more steeply down the continental slope to the deep ocean floor. So the continent's actual edge isn't the coastline, but the edge of this shelf.
How are they formed? And why are they so important, both ecologically and geopolitically?
They form over millions of years as sediments from rivers and the remains of marine life accumulate. Most are broad, gently sloping plains with relatively shallow water.
Shallow water means sunlight.
Right. Sunlight penetrates, supporting diverse life, from tiny shrimp to kelp forests. Plus, ocean currents and river runoff bring nutrients, making them rich feeding grounds, despite being less than 10% of the ocean area.
And the geopolitical importance.
Under UNCLS, coastal states have rights over their continental shelf up to 200 nautical miles, their EEZ, for resource exploration and exploitation.
But they can claim more.
Yes, if a state can scientifically prove to the UN Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf, CLCS, that its shelf is an unbroken natural prolongation of its landmass beyond 200 miles, it can claim an extended continental shelf.
Granting rights to what exactly in that extended zone?
Rights to commercially mine resources on and below the seabed, minerals, polymetallic nodules, potentially oil and gas reserves. But importantly, the claim is only for the seabed and subsoil, not the water column above, unlike the EEZ.
Okay, that distinction is key. Continental shelf is seabed subsoil. EEZ includes the water. Who has the world's largest shelf? Just for scale.
That would be the shelf extending about 1,500 kilometers from Siberia into the Arctic Ocean. In India, the broadest continental shelf is off the coast of Gujarat.
Interesting. All right, let's move to a tech advancement in medicine. The Indian Army achieved a first in glaucoma surgery. Medical innovations are always relevant.
That's right. The Department of Ophthalmology at the Army Hospital Research and Referral in Delhi successfully performed minimally invasive glaucoma surgery, MIGS, using a 3D microscope for the first time.
MIGS using a 3D microscope. We know traditional microscopes, but what's different about a 3D one? What advantage does it offer surgically?
A 3D microscope gives you depth perception. It produces images with X, Y, and Z axis information, so you can visualize and measure topography, volume, internal structures in 3 dimensions.
Unlike the flat 2D image from a traditional scope.
Exactly. It uses advanced techniques, optical, electron, or computational, to capture and reconstruct 3D data. In surgery, especially complex eye surgeries like for squint, cataract, cornea, glaucoma, retina, that 3D view is invaluable.
How so? What are the benefits?
Well, the system used by the Army involves special 3D polarization glasses for the surgeons and a big 4K Ultra HD display. This enhanced visualization can lead to reduced surgical time, potentially lower complication rates compared to conventional methods.
Less invasive, maybe.
Yes, and it allows for decreased power use from the endoilluminator inside the eye, reducing the risk of light toxicity or phototoxicity. Plus, it can make complex or rare cases easier to handle.
Sounds like a significant tool for precision surgery. Okay, let's shift gears one last time to environmental conservation, focusing on a unique sanctuary in India. Biodiversity and conservation efforts are crucial for the UPSC environment section.
Indeed. We're talking about the Mahuadanr Wolf Sanctuary in the Latehar district of Jharkhand. It holds the distinction of being India's first and currently only sanctuary dedicated specifically to conserving the Indian gray wolf.
India's only wolf sanctuary. That's fascinating. Tell us more about it, why it's so important.
It was declared way back in 1976. It covers about 63 square kilometers and is actually an integral part of the larger Palamau Tiger Reserve. Its main purpose is protecting the Indian gray wolf, Canis lupus polypes.
And what's the habitat like? Other wildlife?
It's mostly dry, deciduous forests, grasslands, some rocky terrain. Besides the wolves, you find spotted deer, wild boar, hyenas, bears, a range of wildlife typical of the area.
What's unique about the Indian gray wolf itself? And what's its conservation status? That's always a key point.
Well, it's a subspecies found across Southwest Asia and the Indian subcontinent. Unlike some other gray wolves, it lives in warmer climates, scrublands, grasslands, semi-arid areas. They tend to have smaller packs, are less vocal, and are mainly nocturnal hunters.
And their status? Are they doing okay?
Unfortunately, no. Their conservation status is concerning. The IUCN Red List classifies them as endangered. The estimated population is maybe only 2,000 to 3,000 individuals left.
That's very low.
It is. They're also in Appendix I of CETS, giving them the highest international protection, and Schedule 5 of India's Wildlife Protection Act 1972, which means maximum legal protection within India. So this sanctuary is vital.
Absolutely. Okay, finally, let's touch on some international security news. Reported use of an advanced American missile. Military tech and conflicts are important for global security awareness.
Yes, recent reports suggest U.S. fighter jets have been using advanced StormBreaker precision glide bombs in combat operations, specifically against the Houthis as part of the ongoing campaign there.
The StormBreaker sounds impactful. What can you tell us about this weapon? What are its key capabilities?
Right. Its official designation is GBU-53B, also known as Small Diameter Bomb 2, or SDB-2. It's an American air-launched precision-guided glide bomb made by Raytheon.
Designed for
All-weather precision strikes against both stationary and moving targets. That's a key feature. It's relatively small, about 93 kilograms, 1.76 meters long.
What makes it so advanced? The guidance.
Exactly. It has a multi-mode seeker millimeter wave radar, uncooled infrared imaging, and a digital semi-active laser, plus GPS-INS navigation with real-time updates.
So it can find targets in various conditions, day or night.
Pretty much. It also has a TACnet data link for weapon-to-weapon collaboration, including automatic target recognition ATR, specifically for tracked and wheeled vehicles.
Smart bomb features.
Sure.
And the warhead. Range.
It has a multi-effects warhead blast fragmentation shaped charge capabilities. And the range is significant for a glide bomb. About 45 miles or 72 kilometers against moving targets, and up to 69 miles or 110 kilometers against stationary ones.
Okay, quite a sophisticated piece of ordnance.
Definitely.
So from that critical link between maternal anemia and newborn health to the groundbreaking efforts to protect our high seas, and from India's strides in understanding its unique genetic makeup to the strategic importance of its infrastructure and borders. We've really covered a lot of ground in this deep dive for April 28th, 2025, Part 1.
We have. And remember, each of these seemingly separate updates connects to a larger picture relevant to your UPSC journey. Seeing those connections is key.
Absolutely. We hope this deep dive has not only informed you, but maybe sparked some curiosity, too. What stands out to you from these updates? What further questions do they raise?
We definitely encourage you to delve deeper into these topics. If you found this analysis valuable, please do like and subscribe for more concise, insightful breakdowns of the current affairs that matter for your UPSC prep.
Right. And a final thought to leave you with. Considering advancements like the Phenome India project and these smart industrial corridors, how might India leverage its unique demographic and technological capabilities to achieve truly sustainable and inclusive growth in the coming decade? Something to ponder as you continue your preparations.